Hey, hi, hello. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Psilly Talk podcast. I'm your host, Shally, and on this podcast, we talk about all things mindset, mushrooms, wellness, and personal development. Today's episode is about how mushrooms can positively impact your brain. One of the first things that I noticed when I started doing mushrooms was my brain health and all the different ways that I was mentally thinking and acting and feeling, all from doing mushrooms. It had such an amazing effect on my brain, and at the time, I had no idea that mushrooms even did this. So I was a 90s baby, and then a lot of babies in the 90s who then were young kids in the 2000s, I feel like that was the boom of ADHD medication. And a lot of kids, like if you were diagnosed with ADHD, the schools and the teachers didn't necessarily want to do anything about it on their end, maybe like teach those kids in a different way. They were just like medicate the kids, put them on freaking Vyvanse or Adderall or whatever to make them docile, which is insane because it's like, why would you literally give an 8-year-old kid drugs like that? Whatever, that's a whole nother conversation. Anywho, so yeah, there was a lot of people who were diagnosed with ADHD. And then I also feel like there was a lot of people whose parents didn't necessarily want to go get them checked for ADHD because they didn't want to go the medicine route. And it was all this stuff, whatever. Long story short, I'm not saying that I had ADHD growing up, but I definitely feel like I've had issues with staying focused and staying on task. And I was able to overcome that. Like I was always in the really smart classes and high level classes and I got great grades and like I just, I was able to do my thing. Like I was able to do it, but there definitely were some challenges there. And everybody around me at the time, like a lot of my friends growing up all had ADHD or diagnosed ADHD, were all on the medicines and like I was their friend and we were hanging out all the time and like birds of a feather flock together. Like even though I wasn't necessarily diagnosed and on the medication, I mean, our brains work the same, you know what I mean? Like our neurodivergent brains like worked the same. So, but I was just able to luckily overcome it and just like push past that as I was growing up. But that doesn't mean that as I got older, my brain still wasn't freaking working like that, when I'm trying to stay on task and do different things. And when new things are coming into our society, that's making our focus and our attention span even worse, like technology and social media and things like that. So when I first started doing mushrooms, I was in my mid 20s. I was like 26 when I was like 27 basically, like really doing them, right? And one of the first things that I noticed is that my memory was improving dramatically. So was my focus, and I was able to retain new information. Like I'm not kidding. Like when I was growing up in school, like I would learn stuff and I was able to cram for a test, study the night before, cram all this information, take the test and literally not remember shit. Like remember, I would ace the test, but I would not remember anything. Like it was really hard to retain, and I also feel like in school, they teach us a lot of meaningless shit and a lot of just like give us busy work and stuff like that. So it was just like information overload. Yes, but even so, like I noticed that as I was doing mushrooms, I was like learning new things and like remembering them. And my memory was freaking shot. Like it was so bad. And I did not realize it was so bad until like people would ask me stuff about my childhood or when I was younger. And I'd be like, I literally don't even like know that. Like, I don't remember what you're talking about. What the hell? And so I think that was because of trauma. Because when you go through a lot of trauma as a child, it could definitely mess up your memory. And I also think that was because I was excessively drinking alcohol and smoking weed growing up from like 15 to like 26 when my brain is literally developing and I'm like drowning it in poison and smoking weed so much all the time. And like, I think that's what led to like me not having like the best memory either. Or anyway, that's what I feel like. That's why it was hard for me to remember things, retain information, stay focused, like all of that stuff. Right. So I was realizing as I'm doing mushrooms, I'm like, whoa, like I'm able to stay on task and stay focused and like get shit done. And I'm sitting here actually studying and learning new stuff and then being able to remember it and retain the new information and apply and all this stuff. Like I was shocked. And then I started looking it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, mushrooms treat ADHD. Like, are you joking? This makes so much sense. And like a lot of people I know who are neurodivergent and they would microdose, they'd be like, oh my gosh, it helps my brain so much. It helps me stay on task so much. It helps me focus. Like, so you're not overthinking and ruminating and things like that. And then other than psychedelic mushrooms, another mushroom that is amazing for ADHD, focus, concentration is lion's mane. If you actually look at what a lion's mane looks like, it looks like a brain. It's like this white fluffy mushroom and it looks like a brain because baby, it helps the brain. It's so, so good for focus and concentration, and it actually helps people who have Alzheimer's and dementia. And it also helps to reduce anxiety and depression. So just like mental health, cognitive function, brain health, all of that. Lion's mane mushroom is actually literally incredible. I like to do lion's mane like alone by itself, or like, with like maybe some other functional mushrooms, or I also stack it with my microdose because that just makes the microdose even better. It's like double whammy brain power. It's freaking awesome. You could definitely take them together, or you could just take lion's mane on its own or just microdose on its own. Either way, like you're going to be getting the positive effects of them. So yeah, I was really stoked about that. I was like, whoa, like my brain is like, I feel smarter. Like I am a smart person. Like I know I'm a smart person. I've always thought of myself as a smart person, but I definitely was feeling smarter. Like something that I like to do, like when people would ask me back in the day, like before I actually had like other hobbies of like, all these different things I do now, people would be like, oh, what do you like to do? And I was like, I like to learn. Like I really genuinely like to learn. Like I genuinely love learning new things and reading books and reading articles and researching and listening to podcasts and just learning new information. I love that. And I feel like doing mushrooms and microdosing has amped up that power even more. I genuinely feel so much smarter, and like my brain is working on like 1,000 now, not in a crazy intense way, but I mean like it's amped my brain power up so much. Okay, so the next great thing about mushrooms is that it helps to enhance your creativity. Basically, mushrooms help you to tap into parts of your brain that help you bring out your problem-solving skills and your creativity. This is why so many artists and athletes and creatives do mushrooms, because it literally makes you more creative. Like whether you're on the field and you're trying to figure out a play to like beat the other team, or like you're writing a song or making a painting or writing a book, like it just helps you to get your creative juices flowing, your problem-solving skills flowing. It's honestly incredible. I feel like we all are creative beings. Like we literally create our lives. We are creating all the time. Like being creative and artistic is just a part of our natural being, but a lot of us are just like shied away from that because of the schooling system and because of our society, and like being like, you need to be like emotionless and forget your creative shit and just go to school, get good grades, go work, sit at a desk 40 years, retire. You know what I mean? Like I feel like even so, like I remember growing up and the art classes and all that stuff was just not prioritized, and being creative is not prioritized. I went to private school for the first couple years until like second grade, and obviously private school, they're on their own curriculum, they could do whatever they want. And it was so great because those were very important years in the development of my brain and just like you as a person up until you're like 8 years old. And we were so creative. We were always doing creative projects and we had so much freedom to do different things. Like it was really fun. And then when I got to public school, it was very much about the testing and the standardized test every year and then doing that, and not like we weren't even really embracing our creative side at all. And like I, found different ways to be creative, whether it was like, I don't know, my outfits or the way I designed my room or certain things like that. But like me actually thinking like, oh, I want to pursue a career as an artist or do something creative for my life. Like that was just not even a thought in my brain at all until I started doing mushrooms. I was literally 27, 28 years old and I'm doing mushrooms, and it's the pandemic. So like I had lost my regular job and I was just at home, just, I don't know, realizing things, figuring shit out. And I started to I'm like, all right, I'm bored. What the hell am I going to do? And I started to just, tap into my creative side. I started learning how to crochet, and then I was learning content creation and video making and video editing, and I was getting into like entertainment and music and songwriting and singing, and I even learned how to play the piano. I learned how to play the piano as an adult, okay? I was able to start a business and do all those things on the back end because, I was like learning new information, retaining it. And then also I'm like, okay, you have to be creative in the sense of starting a business and doing all this stuff. Like I was doing all these things, all of these creative skills, and the creativity in me was already in me. Like it was always in me, but it was just laid dormant in me for so long. And doing mushrooms helped to bring that out of me. And I was like, yo, this is so sick. Like I understand now why, like I said, artists and creatives and stuff, like when they do psychedelics and they do do mushrooms or other psychedelics, like they're able to create like these incredible pieces of art. And now that's what I do. That's what I do for my career. I'm an artist. I'm a creative. I'm a content creator. I have a podcast. I have my own business. I do all these things where I get to use my creative side, and I feel so much more fulfilled because this is just, I feel like I'm just so much more aligned with this. Like I said, as humans, we are more creative and artistic. Like that is in our nature. And I'm not saying that I'm not analytical. Like I have a very analytical brain too, or I guess I should say like that part of my brain is still very active as well. But my creative side of my brain is now just as active. So I'm like an analytical creative person. I don't know. It works really well for me. So yeah, mushrooms help me to tap more into my creativity and just pursue this for my life and as a career and just in general. Even the way I dress now and like do my makeup or design my room and just do different things is like, I'm so much more creative. I'm just like, ooh, like this would look cool over here. Like, I've never worn that before. Let me try this outfit. And like, it's just so cool. Like, I just love being tapped into my creativity. The next way that mushrooms can dramatically improve your brain health is by improving your mental health. I'm talking anxiety, depression, OCD, like I said, ADHD, overthinking, anger issues, like all of that. Actually, one of the first things that mushrooms actually, before even like the focus part, one of the first things that mushrooms really did for me, and it was so fast, was completely dissolve my anger issues. Like I was mad. I was a mad teenager, and then which translated into my early 20s, like young adult growing up. Like I really was. I went through a lot of trauma. I was bullied so bad, like by some family members and then friends and then relationships, even teachers and coaches. Like I was just a target for the bullshit. You know what I mean? Growing up. And I was just so angry and pissed off. And then I didn't even realize how angry and pissed off I was until I started to drink. And when I started to drink, I would become fucking mad. And then I'm like, why am I so fucking mad when I'm drinking? Oh, it's like, because all that's like repressed. And when I'm drinking, it comes out, right? So I was realizing like I had a lot of anger issues and stuff. And what I was doing was when I realized, I was like, I don't want to be this type of person anymore. Like I don't want to be super angry and stuff. Like this is even before the mushrooms. So I would just like remove myself from people who were like making me angry, but that still didn't completely remove my anger issues because I was angry from within. It was yes, people outside of me who were making me angry, but it was also like I had been that type of person for so long that it was just like within me because, okay, nobody's around me, but I'm driving in the car and a little bit of traffic and I'm cursing everybody out in my car. Like that makes no sense, right? So yeah, when I first started doing mushrooms, I literally I was so not angry anymore. Like unbothered is an understatement. I couldn't even believe it. Like resting bitch face was something that I didn't necessarily have it all the time, but I was like more like mad. And then I would just have like a perpetual smile on my face. Like I just literally didn't care. And then even if certain situations would arise and stuff that would normally like agitate me, irritate me and piss me off, like I'm not kidding. I really just wouldn't care. And it's not like numbing, you know, in the sense of like, oh, like I'm just numb to it and it fades off. Like, no, it dissolved my anger. I'm not an angry person anymore. I'm really not. And I'm not a reactive person. That's what it is too. I'm not reactive. It's like I'm calm now and I'm able to respond to situations rather from like a level head rather than just pop the fuck off and react and curse you out and tell you off and then like regret it 10 minutes later. That's just not me anymore. And I love that for me so much because being an angry person, like, yes, you're screaming at somebody else and you're sending all that hate and negative energy into somebody else, but like you're feeling that so deeply. Like all those negative emotions are coursing through your body. So it's like really negatively affecting you, even worse than it's impacting the other person. So yeah, I love that. I love that so much. No more anger. Baby, I'm calm. I'm happy. I'm relaxed. Zen. Oh my gosh. And then I dealt with anxiety and depression for a long time too. And that went away too. I actually didn't even realize that I had anxiety or I was depressed like all throughout like my teenage years and like throughout my early 20s until I started doing mushrooms. Like I didn't realize it. I was just like, oh yeah, like we're all like it's just as you get older, you just get fucking sad and everybody's overthinking and anxious and stuff. And it's like, no. And I did not realize that I even had like those were the labels, I guess, that I had until I didn't have that anymore. Like until I wasn't excessively biting my nails and shaking when I was like just in social situations and I would wake up and I'd be happy. I wasn't like ruminating on depressive thoughts and feeling down and out about myself and my life. And then I also like didn't feel compelled anymore to hang around people who were in those states. Like, I'm not shaming people who have depression and anxiety at all, but as I started to feel like less reactive, happier, and more calm and level-headed, I just wasn't resonating with people who were being like that and who didn't want to do anything about it. Because like I said, I didn't know, like I thought that's just how it was. I'm like, yeah, you just get older and that's just how people feel. And it's like, no, these are mental health conditions that a lot of people are struggling with, are completely, one, unaware of it, and two, don't even know what to do about it. And so it was just becoming very apparent to me. I was like, oh wait, like I feel so good now. I had no idea how much shit I felt like before. Like I genuinely had no idea. And I was so grateful to be feeling better mentally and emotionally. And by feeling better mentally and emotionally, it just improved my mood. I just became a happier person. I was just like, yay. Like I wake up and I'm smiling. Like I feel great. Like even, I'm not saying that negative things don't happen to me or I hadn't faced adversities, but I was able to face them with such a level head and a calm mind and a calm spirit and like a clear mind, you know, like my mental clarity was just so great. And I didn't feel overwhelmed with just stress or negativity or anger or resentment or any of that, you know, like I just felt so good. And so my mood was just better and I was just happier. And then people were like, what the fuck is she on? Mushrooms. And it wasn't even just when I was on the mushrooms. Like, this is what I'm talking about. The thing about mushrooms, it's not like you just experience these feelings and whatnot while you're microdosing or macrodosing. Like, these last. Like, it helps to treat these issues. So these amazing feelings that I'm feeling would last for days, weeks, months after. That's why you don't have to do mushrooms every single day. And that's why if you do a larger amount at once, you're going to have like a longer lasting effect over time. And like, you don't need to do a larger amount again for like, honestly, months at a time. Or if you microdose, when you microdose, like the days after when you're not microdosing anymore, like you still feel good. It's called the afterglow. It's honestly, seriously incredible. It's the best part about doing them. So yeah, my mood improved. I went from like a sad, angry bitch to like a happy-go-lucky gal. Like that's just what it is now. I love it. Another way that mushrooms help to positively impact your brain is by stimulating neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity refers to your brain's ability to change and get stronger through new experiences. Basically, it's building your mental muscle. It's like working out, you know, and like building new muscles, new neural pathways in your brain. Neuroplasticity is a natural gift that allows us to develop as a person and take on the ever-changing task of daily life. So our brain, we are always going through neuroplasticity, like especially as a child when we're learning new things. But what mushrooms do is it helps to literally stimulate that. So it helps to amp up our neuroplasticity power. Some examples of you already doing this is when you memorize the alphabet as a kid, or you learn how to drive a car and navigate the streets in your neighborhood. You know how when you first learn how to drive, you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And then like, you're like trying to remember where to turn and like, oh wait, what street is that? Whatever. But then after a month, it's like, oh, it's like cake. It's easy. It's you're doing it on autopilot because in that month, your brain was developing new neural pathways, like practicing neuroplasticity. Same with doing the alphabet, learning the alphabet. It's like working out your mental muscle. And then in a very short amount of time, you have formed new neural pathways where all these tasks have just become normalized to you and you could just do it without even thinking. So when it comes to mushrooms, like I said, they help to stimulate neuroplasticity in your brain. So whatever new task that you're learning or you're doing in a positive sense is going to be ingrained in your brain so much faster. That's why doing mushrooms is so great for people who want to overcome addiction. Because doing mushrooms is helping to form new positive neural pathways in your brain, it's also simultaneously weakening the pathways that lead to a dependency on a substance. So those neural pathways in your brain that were linked to like anxiety, depression, or like just the habit of smoking or the habit of thinking this way in a negative way about yourself or drinking alcohol or doing whatever. And like the less and less that you do that, those pathways are just weakening because you're not walking that path anymore. But as you're doing mushrooms and you're forming new neural pathways, you know, thinking more positively about yourself, adopting new healthy habits or new healthy lifestyle, or just doing things, waking up earlier, like certain things, your brain is strengthening and new neural pathways are forming in that direction because you're continuously walking that path. And as you're doing mushrooms while you're doing that thing, those paths are becoming stronger and stronger way quicker than normal. It's just incredible. Like it's like you have a super brain. Like your brain is rapidly changing and improving, and mushrooms are helping it do that. The thing that I always heard growing up about mushrooms was that it alters the chemistry of your brain. Like, yeah, no shit. That's literally the point of them. That's literally the point of them, because a lot of our brains and our brain chemistries are messed up from when we were kids, like trauma or just, you know, learning false things, learning negative thought patterns, negative mindsets, like learning limiting beliefs that limit us from becoming our best selves and like being confident and things like that, you know? So if we have the ability to learn new programs, like learn new thought patterns, have it like upgrade our mindset, why not do that? Why not take the opportunity and learn something new? And if there's a natural remedy like mushrooms that can help to instill those new neural pathways and help stimulate neuroplasticity and help upgrade your mindset and positively impact your brain, it makes sense to do that. We've been stigmatized for so long to think negatively about mushrooms for that reason, because what if everybody was just, you know, overcoming anxiety and depression and addictions and alcohol and feeling happier and healthier and smarter? Like the drug industry, the big pharma drug industry would completely collapse. Like, because all of those things that I just mentioned, there's a synthetic pill that they sell to people that doesn't even heal that people take over for their whole lives. So if people were doing mushrooms, right, and they didn't need anxiety or depression medicine, like they didn't need alcohol or cigarettes and they didn't need ADHD medicine and things like that, that industry would honestly kind of cease to exist, and people would be happier and healthier and more creative and feel more powerful and just better. And like the people who are running our country, whoever made up these damn rules, they didn't want people like that. They wanted people to be docile and upset and sad and unhealthy and angry and dependent on these substances, dependent on them. The thing about mushrooms is it helps you to remember the power that's already within you. It helps you to become like the best version of yourself, like a smarter version, a happier version, a healthier version of yourself. Think about Super Mario Brothers. And what happened when Mario would get a mushroom? He would get bigger and stronger. He would literally power up. Okay? It was hidden in plain sight right in front of our face. Mushrooms are good for us. They're so amazing. They literally have the ability to dramatically improve our brain function, mental health, and so much more. Now, when it comes to mushrooms and microdosing and macrodosing and doing all of that, if you've been interested in it, but you don't know where to start and you want structure and support along your journey, check out my Higher Self Mastery program. It's an online video coaching course that covers microdosing and holistic wellness, and you'll also get access to the best microdosing products ever with a forever discount code. I'll link all of that in the show notes. And if you're not, make sure you're following me on TikTok and Instagram at Shally Way. Send me a DM, let's chit chat, ask me questions. Like, I love talking to you guys. So yeah, mushrooms, they make you smarter. They make you more calm. It helps with your mental clarity, your focus, your concentration. Like if you are having issues with your brain and any of those aspects, I highly recommend looking into mushrooms, whether it's psychedelic mushrooms and microdosing, or even just the mushrooms like lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, chaga mushrooms. These are functional mushrooms that you can also buy at the store. But yeah, mushrooms are like the foundation of our society. Like even on a level of plants and everything, it's like the networks of our world and of nature and of our lives. And like they help us so much in so many ways, and they can help improve your mindset and upgrade your brain health and your cognitive function so much. If you want to feel happier and healthier mentally and just calmer and more creative, mushrooms are for you. So definitely look into them. And like I said, message me, send me a DM if you have any questions. Like I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. It's a safe zone. You don't have to worry about or feel embarrassed or anything. Like I got you. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Psilly Talk podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. Bye.